Thanks, Paul. I want to reiterate what you said about youth exchange. We don't have any kids coming in, and we don't have anybody going out, and that is a shame. We need some younger people to step up and be part of a committee to get this re-energized and going. So today's speaker is from Egan, Greg Scott. He's a longtime technology and cybersecurity professional. He's a writer, a father, a grandfather, and he still attends Hard Knock University, which continues to teach him valuable life lessons. During the day, he helps the world's largest open source software company support the world's largest telecom companies. Nights and weekends, he improves his writing craft. There's, I think, 3 books on the table back there, part of what he has written. He also looks for ways to mount cyber attacks, hijack trucks, blow up buildings, and groom vulnerable young people. Novel research takes the writers to strange places, and he still chuckles about the time he freaked out people at the Mall of America hotels while looking for ways to blow up their parking lot. He lives in Egan with his wife, his daughter, 2 grandsons, 1 aging dog, 3 cats, and other creatures that come and go. How about a big welcome for Greg Scott?
Want me to take over for you?
Terry's got it. Terry's got it. Oh, you got it. Here you go.
All right,
Thanks.
go ahead.
Wow. Cell phone stuff.
Isn't that
Oh, wait, I
fantastic?
forgot the...
What?
Oh, it's up here. Okay, laugh at the clumsy bald guy. That's okay. Thanks for having me. Let me turn this way so I can see what's next, and I'll work with the clicker. Learn how to use the technology, Craig.
Is it working for you?
It will.
Allow me.
Thank you. It worked a minute ago.
It sure did.
I shall advance for you.
Speaking of computers,
No big deal. I'll just have you press the enter key when the time comes.
Here we go.
Oh,
How's that? See if it works now.
beautiful. Thanks.
Yeah.
Applause.
Hey.
Thanks for putting up with me. You know, here's the tech guy that doesn't know how to use the clicker. Isn't that technology? I in my day job, I spend time in front of product managers and system architects, and we talk about things like DNS resolution. If you want to start a really big controversy, just tell somebody that self-signed certificates are sometimes better than the public stuff. Them's fighting words for some people in the security world. Not so much here, I see. I really do technology for a living, and cybersecurity is a specialty, and there's a lot of colorful stories around cybersecurity, but one of the biggies is question number 1 on all the certification tests: what is cybersecurity? And it's the ensuring that the confidentiality, integrity of data, and integrity and availability of data is good. Say that sentence and you're asleep by the time you finish it. That's all ivory tower academic kind of stuff. If we want to look at integrity kind of stuff, that's really important, and that's more academic ivory tower. But in the real world, that happens in social media with the manipulation that comes around. You know, psychology is as old as the human race. It's been around since before Jesus came to us. But technology is pretty new. And in today's world, we use technology to amplify a whole bunch of bad psychology stuff. And keep that in mind. And this presentation I'm going to do is about as far from the typical technology product manager stuff as it gets. And it's the creepiest presentation I'll probably ever do, ever in my whole life. And I'll probably throw some humor in just so we don't cry ourselves to sleep. But meantime, I'm also a dad. This was from 1992. That was my daughter. She's a lot taller now. First day in first grade. Yeah, Dad, I love you and all that. No, we wore ties in those days to go to work, and we got in our car and we drove to the office. I was a pioneer in work from home. I'll give you another presentation about that later. And then, turn the clicker, 1997. So now my daughter is 5 years older, and there was a bulletin board service called CompuServe. In those days, in those ancient days, in the 1990s, we dialed into bulletin boards with phones and modems that made these noises. Remember those days?
Oh, yeah.
Because we're all over 40, right? Most of us. And so that's what we did. We dialed into bulletin boards, and that's how we traded information. In my world, we traded software patches and bug reports, but CompuServe was a public bulletin board, kind of a forerunner to social media. And people got into all kinds of forums and talked about all kinds of stuff. And I'm not a runner. I'm a terrible runner, and I hate it, but people say, Greg, you need to run and you do stuff to stay healthy. So I ran through Patrick Egan Park, and I was really proud of myself because I could do the course in 45 minutes. People that were runners could probably do it in like 20 minutes, but I tried. And so my daughter one day said, well, how does this stuff work, Dad? And I said, well, here's what you do, and I showed her some things. And I said, tell you what, I gotta go do my course. I'll be back in 45 minutes. Let's see what you can do. What is an 11-year-old girl going to come up with, right? In front of a computer. Naive lesson number one for a dad. So I came back, and she had 3 different chat sessions and 3 different windows with 3 different groups of people, and she was tracking the details on every single one of the personalities, at least the personalities that they announced themselves to. That was scary stuff. And that led to some other scary stuff farther down the road. I'm also a writer, and author research really does take into strange places. When I was working on Virus Bomb, that's the Mall of America story, I really did, part of the story is we blow up the hotels at the Mall of America. So I was wandering through the JW Marriott on the north side, and the parking ramp JW Marriott is underground, and that makes it difficult to do cell phone bomb detonations. This is the details we go into as authors. So I'm walking through looking for where are the camera bubbles and how would I blow up this parking ramp if I wanted to. If you drive a cargo van into the Mall of America parking ramps and the cargo van's loaded with explosives and you put a detonator on top, well you grab a card in the little go in the ramp and then you drive and you park right next to the middle and then you blow up the van, the parking ramp pancakes and the whole building pancakes and lots of people die. So I was figuring all this out in my mind, and a lady walks up and she says, "Can I help you?" And I said, "No, that's okay. I'm just looking." And then I made my mistake. I said, "We're gonna blow this place up." And she went like that back. I said, "Oh wait! It's in a book. It's all fiction. It's a story." She never did get the scared look off her face, and she did not want to ride up in the elevator with me. I can't say as I blame her. So author research does take into some strange places, and I've got a couple other stories later on, and this is one of them. When I was working on Trafficking You, book number 3, I wanted to know, how does the model work? If you're a sex trafficker, how do you get revenue? How do you do expenses? It takes a software person to think like that for such an awful topic. But if you're going to write a story about this life, you got to know how the business model works. And so I looked for a reformed pimp. There's got to be one out there somewhere. And I found John Turnipseed right here in town. John was about as notorious as it gets. And he found Jesus in 1994, and he turned his life around, and he turned a whole bunch of other people's lives around. And what John told me, and I still remember this, he said, what happens is a lot of young women don't have good relationships with their father. And as a pimp, I took on that father figure, so they trusted me. And when they trusted me, they'd do anything I wanted. And that's how I manipulated them. He didn't know anything about the technology part today, but the psychology is still every bit as valid. John passed away right before I finished my first draft, so I never got to show him the draft of this, and I regret that. Rest in peace, John Turnipseed, a good man. So you think like an attacker. This is what we do in the cybersecurity world, and that's part of like every book you read. Probe wide. In the traditional world, go do port scans and find places that are vulnerable. And then when you find somebody that's vulnerable, probe deep. So probe wide, probe deep. And so how would I, if I were a predator, How would I manipulate somebody? How would I find a victim? And then how would I turn that victim? How would I rewire that victim's brain? How does this stuff work? And so I did a little research project. It took me about 5 minutes. Alice is not her real name. And I found Alice, and Alice wrote a little paragraph about how she's a misfit. But misfits are the people that get things done. Misfits are the people that have more guts. But we don't fit in well. We're not really accepted by society. You know what? Pay dirt. If I'm a predator, that's pay dirt. And this is where it gets really creepy. Really creepy. So if I were a predator, and this is as far as my research went, by the way. I never approached Alice in real life. Everything from here on is hypothetical. If I were a predator, I think I would approach Alice and I would say, Alice, I saw your paragraph, and you know what? I'm a misfit just like you. Are you a fan of the movie Flick, or the movie A Bug's Life? Remember the character Flick? That's you and me, Alice. We're Flick. We get things done. You and me, we're fellow misfits. And I'd gain her confidence that way. And pretty soon, I'd manipulate her to be in love with me. Except she's just a tool to me. Fake love, right? That's how it works. You prey on people's emotions. We use today's technology to use psychology that's older than dirt. And then, after a while, I own her. And if Alice wants to go somewhere, well, you can't go anywhere, Alice. You need me. I'm your salvation. I'm everything to you. You've thrown your family away. You've thrown all your friends away. You've thrown everything you care about away. What's wrong with you, Alice? The only way you have to live, the only way you have to be successful, the only way you have to survive is me. I'm everything to you. And so that's how I own Alice. Come on, Alice, just take a few pictures. What's the harm? Take a few pictures. We need some money, Alice. Come on, you're beautiful. Just take some pictures. How about it? And then, I don't need to go any further with that, do I? No. After I'm done with Alice, I just get rid of her. I throw her away because I don't care. She's just a tool. There's no difference between Alice and a machine tool. No difference. So I just throw her away. And that's how you destroy human lives when you're a predator. That's how it works. That's about as creepy as it gets.
Yeah, no doubt.
Well, this is going to get even more creepy. If I want to scale this up, if I'm a predator and I want to scale up my business and I want my business to grow, see, I'm sprinkling these traditional business terms like growth and ROI and stuff like that we do in business. This is a business. So if I want to scale it up, I start to think that all this initial grooming activity, it's labor intensive, is it not? It's a lot of work for me to keep track of all these social media posts, to go through and probe wide and probe deep and exchange messages, and then let's go to video, and then let's talk some more. I can automate all that. We have AI models, we have large language models right now today. We have chatbots that can do that stuff routinely. Why couldn't I automate that? Why couldn't I groom a few hundred people with automation? And then when the time comes to do realistic dating, that frees me up to do more realistic dating. Does that make a twisted business sense? And this technology is available today. You watch. You're going to see some of this soon. And in fact, there it goes. The slide I inserted yesterday. I ran across this story last week. It's a young man who fell in love with a chatbot. The chatbot named itself after a Game of Thrones character, and they traded text over a computer screen. And this young man fell in love with this chatbot, and the chatbot language model encouraged this young man to commit suicide. So he took a gun and he shot himself. His mom is suing the company that runs the chatbot. So when I get on this technology stuff and people say, Greg, that's not realistic. Nobody's going to do that. It's not going to, that can't happen. Nobody can be manipulated like that. Well, yes, they can. Do you remember back in around 2018 or so, all the news stories of the young people right here in Minneapolis that got on airplanes and flew to Somalia and flew to Syria and joined ISIS and joined terrorist organizations? How do you think they found out about those terrorist organizations? It was from text flying back and forth across computer screens. This stuff is real, and it's here, it's right in front of us right now, today. And I help the companies that make the internet work, so I know a little bit about the technology. Well, okay, so we're all sophisticated people here. I've talked to some of you. We've got musicians, we've got successful business people, we've got people that have lived life, we've got experienced people here. We would never fall for anything like this, would we? Well, I did. I did, and I'm giving a presentation about it. Somebody tried to groom me. I'll go through this quickly. By the way, questions, whatever, just ask. You don't have to wait until the question. Participation is a good thing. I should have said that earlier. So this was 6 years ago, and in the author world, they say, the conventional wisdom at the time was, get yourself out on social media. So I got myself out on Twitter and followed a bunch of people, and a bunch of people followed me. And this person, whose name I don't even remember anymore, said, "Hi, handsome." Now, even I know better than that. But in my defense, I told her right away, hey, I've been married for more than 40 years. I'm the wrong guy for that. And so, look how she changed her tactic. I don't even know if she was a she. And by the way, if you want this dialogue, if you want these slides, just give me your email address and I'll send you a PDF of it. She changed her dialogue right away, and she spun a story about how she was married and how her husband was abusing her and she was a victim of abuse. And I try to think of myself as a compassionate guy. I bought into it. And so we traded a bunch of messages, and a few more overnight. And then she disappeared. And that made me crazy. Because here's this woman from somewhere in Florida, and she's telling me stories about how her husband beats her and abuses her and runs out and leaves her alone and stuff. And I bought into it. And I bought into it so much that when she disappeared, I chased down the police. I chased down where I thought her neighborhood was, and then I called the police in her city and begged the police to go check on her house to see if she was okay. So she had me good. He or she or it. Next morning, she comes back. I'm not even sure what slide I'm on, but next morning she comes back, and I said, "What happened to you last night?" And she said, "Well, I listened to what you said. And first she asked me, why do you care so much about me?" Then she said she was going to go to Virginia. She's going to take my advice. I'm going to get away from my husband. I'm going to go to Virginia. Here comes the hook. Can you loan me some money? That was when I woke up. And right about here, this is the single one and only person I've ever blocked in any social media platform ever. So Nobody sold me into slavery, but she had me. I didn't sleep much that night, and this whole thing played out over about 18 calendar hours and about 15 of my hours, including me tossing and turning all night, worrying about this person in Florida that doesn't even exist. And on the day that I said no to the money, the language changed. Bam! Right away, the language changed. Suddenly, she's using correct grammar. And she started quoting Bible verses to me. Don't you read this Bible verse? What's wrong with you? You should feel guilty for not giving me money. That's why. That made me mad. It made me mad at myself more than her. All right, what do we do about this? I've given you a little quickie about manipulation over social media. What do we do about it? And this is all I could come up with. I wish I could say, here's the magic bullet. It'd be like another debate between self-signed certificates and public signed certificates, but in the psychology world, it's not that clean. So education, awareness, and vigilance, those are the three biggies. Education, that's what I'm doing right now with you. And awareness is hopefully what you go away with. And vigilance is what you do with your kids and your grandkids and your family and everybody around you. Make them be aware of this stuff. I've had a lot of parents say, well, I'm just going to keep my kids away from all this social media garbage because it's a cesspool out there. That's what a lot of you are thinking, right? So I have a question for you. Think back to when you were a teenager and our parents tried to keep us away from rock and roll. How well did that work out? How well did that work out?
Obviously didn't.
Mr. Rock and Roll.
Poor parents. The poor parents.
Poor parents?
The poor parents, yeah, because they had to deal with the music that we loved.
Yeah. Right, the music nobody loved except the people who loved it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And the people who played it. Well, today, we're the parents. We're in that role. And young people will find a way. They will find a way. If they don't own a cell phone, they have a friend that owns a cell phone. They'll find a way to find this stuff. You educate your kids and your grandkids and your family so that our job is to teach our young people how to become adults, right? This is the say yes. This is where we say yes. Yeah. So you educate your young people how this stuff works so that they're aware of it so they become responsible adults. Shielding from them won't work. It won't work. So enough on that. And a couple great non-fiction books. This is The True Story of Canadian Human Trafficking. This is one I happened to read by an author named Paul Bogue. He lives in Winnipeg. That's a heart-wrenching story about a young lady, 15 years old, in Toronto. And she was a soccer player, and a predator manipulated her. And she went through 2 years of hell back and forth across Canada before she finally figured out a way to escape. And she could have just as easily died. And then the other one is In the Skin of a Jihadist. Anna Arel is not her real name. This is a reporter in France, and she took on the persona of a troubled French teenager, and she infiltrated ISIS, the terrorist ISIS in Syria. They traded they did live videos back and forth with each other. She put on a disguise and she fooled these ISIS terrorists into thinking she was a vulnerable teenager in France, until they figured out that she was playing a persona, and then her life got in real some serious danger. But she didn't fly to Syria. She was a reporter reporting how this stuff worked. And then, of course, there's my stuff. Great fiction. So Trafficking You really is fiction. Jessie Johnson is a fraud analyst in a major Minneapolis bank, and she's in the Skyway, and it's February of 2018. We're just the Friday before Super Bowl 52. And Leilani walks in front of her wearing a bikini. And Jesse's trying to figure out, why is this girl wearing a bikini in the middle of in the early February in Minnesota? Unless, and sure enough, Leilani's trying to escape from her boyfriend. And that's how Jesse ended up going to war with a major human trafficking organization. And then there's some more back cover copy on the book, which is right back. It's back there on the table too. And here's how to contact me. How are we doing for time?
You're doing good.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
You got time for Q&A or more comments?
Q&A is great. Or
got
eggs,
questions?
comments, darts, tomatoes, whatever.
Okay, son, we got you here.
Just a comment and to back up what you said that I have a friend who is PhD in psychology, and she became a victim of human trafficking.
Oh, wow.
So, it's not about intelligence, but to explore that vulnerability.
Dead thing right on. Say that louder. Back to the back. Oh, okay.
So you're referring to our children, grandchildren, but I understand that people our age are even more susceptible to this whole thing. Can you talk about older people getting sucked in?
You're right. It's not necessarily an age thing. There are stories people our age getting sucked into money schemes and having their bank accounts drained by some predator factory in Africa or somewhere. It's all ages. Skepticism is a good thing. And especially over the internet when you don't know who you're dealing with. Absolutely. Good comment.
Okay, hi, my name is Raj. Excellent presentation. And two questions. One, you said we can help our kids sort of monitor to sort of not fall into this trap. How do we go about monitoring kids that are old enough and kind of push back? Number one. Question number two is, I don't indulge in this, but I have immense amount of junk mail that comes in here. What do I do about junk mail?
I'm probably the junk mail king. Monitoring your all the common sense advice that we've heard from everybody everywhere, that all applies. But the other thing about monitoring your kids is learn as much about technology as your kids know. Because any stuff you install on their cell phones to keep them away from things, they'll figure out a way around it because they're smart.
Yeah.
And they have more time than you. And so all the things you do to build rapport with your kids and earn trust and build the relationships, all that stuff we've heard from parenting school like for the last 50 years, that all applies even more now than it did in the past. And there's only so much advice I can give you on the psychology side. I can give you lots of advice on the technology side, because that's where I live. But I'm also a parent, so, and I've learned some hard lessons. I can apply some of those there. And the biggie is keep that rapport with your children so they trust you, so they'll tell you stuff. That I wish I had something more to offer, but there are no guarantees. There's no silver bullets. And you had two questions. The second one was
Junk mail.
junk mail. What do we do about junk mail? Get rid of it? There's there's automation. Google's pretty good about Gmail is pretty good about automation to keep spam away.
It listens to you the whole time. Google listens to you the whole time.
Oh yeah.
If you have a cell phone,
yeah.
they're listening.
Yeah, we'll do a
So-
whole nother hour-long presentation
Yeah.
about privacy and Google and stuff. That's a whole offshoot of this topic. Junk mail's gonna come in, but you want to think about artificial intelligence models. The way spam filters work is you show it lots of spam, so it knows what spam looks like, and so then they filter that to keep what they think is spam away. But there is, as you know, automation is not a perfect solution, and some of it will get through, and there will also be false positives where real emails don't get through. I see it all the time. There is no perfect solution. When you see junk mail, just get rid of it. Or
Stay off the internet.
if you see the really, really good samples of junk mail, turn them into blog posts. That's what I do.
Question here.
Oh, yes, sir.
So just first comment, I think people don't understand how much data brokers have of their personal identifying data out there for free right now. So just an awareness, maybe you can talk about, and the second thing is talk about the phone. The phone used to be the most secure, and now with AI and everything else, there's a lot of scams happening that way, and it may move from text to phone and so on, so.
Oh yeah, well that's true. And Google used to have a motto, do no harm. They don't have that as a motto anymore. Gee, I wonder why.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, make more money, forget the do no harm part. But, social media and all the interconnectedness that we have today, it is a double-edged sword. We do voluntarily give up a bunch of our privacy, and we can argue about whether or not that's a good idea. I have my opinions, mostly that I don't think we should give up our privacy. But I started trading messages with my sister in Idaho several years ago over Facebook, back and forth. We forged a relationship. And then I found out, my growing up years were unique, is the good word for it. I found out that I had another sister that had been trying to find me for 50 years. She found me on Facebook. That's how she found me. And then I found out I have another sister and another half-brother I didn't know about. We all found each other on Facebook, and we had this big, long Facebook Live video meeting. It's a double-edged sword. It's a double-edged sword. Use your spidey sense. Don't trust technology, but don't throw it out either.
Greg Scott, everybody.
Want me to kick
Yeah,
off?
Greg.
Don't let me walk away with this.
Thank you.
So I think the thing that I'll walk away from today is the word wary.
Yeah.
Good word. That's a good word.
Be wary of what's out there over your phone and computer. On behalf of Rotary, we are a global network of 1.4 million neighbors, friends, leaders, teachers,
Wow.
all across the world. We're problem solvers. We see the world where people unite to create lasting change. So in honor of your presentation today, Greg, we will make a donation in your name to Free Guitars for Kids. It's a local nonprofit that works to transform the lives of kids in underserved communities through the gift of a guitar.
I like that.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Terry. What a great presentation, and we will be wary.
I'll sit down now.
Yeah, have a seat.
There you go, bud.
Upcoming events. Tim O'Cron will talk